Shalom. I am Rabbi Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efat, Israel. This week's Parsha, this week's Torah reading is Mishpatim, which contains the civil laws guiding the conduct between human beings. And it's an integral part of what we received last week, the Serat Dibrot, which we received at Mount Sinai. Likewise, this was given at Mount Sinai. I'm going to talk about the quality of a Jew in being able to accept what is happening without understanding. And I'm talking about this because at the end of the class that I gave this past Tuesday night on the Nativot Shalom, where we talked about, we basically talked about a lot of things relating to Emunah, having faith and trust in God, relating to the goodness of God, that Tov Hashem Lakol, God does good for everybody, everything. The whole purpose of creation is good. After the live broadcast, one of the students who were in the class asked the following question. The person said, "I'm really conflicted. Before I got on to listen to this class, I watched the news, and I see all the horrible things that are happening. And how can I, with those horrible things happening, which I've never seen in my life, and unfortunately we're experiencing that in Israel right now, how can I believe that everything is for the good? How can I equate those two things?" And I tried to answer a little bit and talk about the need for constant emunah, faith in God, trust in God, no matter what happens. But I want to expand on what I said then. And not coincidentally, because there are no coincidences in life, this week's Parsha in Mishpatim gives us a very interesting insight into that issue of understanding, of not understanding, of accepting without understanding what's happening. And the Parsha, this week's Torah reading, doesn't begin, but it in the middle of the Parsha, it says, "Vayikach Sefer Abris, V'ikra Baznei Ha'am." Moses took the commandments, the Torah that had been given up until the time of receiving the Torah, in other words, the book of Genesis and part of the book of Exodus until the giving of the Torah, and he read it in the ears of the people. He read it to the Jewish people. Vayomru, and they said, "Kol asher diber Hashem na'aseh v'nishma." Whatever Hashem says, whatever Hashem commands us, we will do, and then we will understand it. In other words, the commitment was made that regardless of what Hashem wanted us to do, regardless of what God wanted from us, we would do it, even if we didn't know the answer, if we didn't know the reason for the request. Na'aseh v'nishma. The Nativot Shalom quotes the Meorei Naim regarding to this, and he says, look, in our life, as we all know, there are times that things are looking up, there are good times, and there are things that are apparently bad. And the prophet Yechezkel says that life is a continuation of going and coming back, going forward and coming back. And that's the way of creation, he says, that there's always an aliyah going up and a yerida falling down. And he says that a very great secret of the Torah is that a Jew has to understand and to be connected to Hashem and cleave to Hashem, have be dovuk to Hashem, cleaving to God. And that's the main purpose of receiving the Torah. That even in the times of going down, times of darkness, a Jew must cling to God. And that's what is meant when the people said, Nasa v'nishma, we will do and then we will understand. We will do without understanding and understanding anything. And even in the times of darkness, we will remain connected to God. And then after that, we'll come eventually to the aspect of understanding. But first, doing and accepting. And this is the greatness, he says, of the children of Israel, of the Jewish people, where God was marveling at how they could say, Nasa v'nishma, put Nasa, we will do, before understanding. And he said that shows that the Jew was really ready to come into a close connection with God, to cleave to God, even in the times of greatest darkness. And the Torah tells us, very famous saying, V'yatem hadvekim b'Hashem Elokeichem, Chaim Kulchem Hayom. Those of you who are connected to God, your God, are still alive today. That sentence uses two words. The first says Hashem, Yud Kei Vud Kei, the four-letter name of God. Those that are connected to God, to the mercy of God, and at the same time, Elohim, it's a language of judgment. So we see that Atem Advekim, you that cleave to God when the mercy of God is revealed, as well as when the judgment of God is upon us, when the bad things are happening, Chaim Kulchem Hayom, you will be alive. That's what life is. That's what life is of a Jew. In times of the greatest darkness, we have to still recognize that everything is from Hashem. God has told us that you are my chosen people. And that was told to us because God understood that we would accept without having to understand whatever the commandments of God were. And we have to learn to nullify ourselves and to accept that L'cha ani v'chol asher li, whatever I am is due to you, both in darkness and in light. And this was the beauty of the Jews understanding this secret and putting this acceptance, even without understanding, before understanding. And the Tibot Shalom points out that this put the Jews on the level of the angels. The angels did their work, did whatever they were assigned. They didn't question anything. This was the secret of the angels, and the Jews had this secret in saying Nasa v'nishma. So the way to really get through these difficult times is to understand that we're always going to have difficult times, we're going to have good times. And the way to stay alive in these times and to thrive in these times is to recognize that God is in charge of everything. Have total faith in God, total emunah in God, and betocho, and trust in God. Trust that God will come to our aid, just as He does in the times of light, He will do in times of darkness. And the only way to get through these times is through emunah pshuta, simple faith in God, just as the Jews had when they were about to receive the Torah. Simple faith in God, that God was going to be with the Jewish people in all times. in darkness as well as in light. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbat.